Hey guys, another video from the Anti-Nerd here, and I just saw Captain America Brave New World. I'm here with my friend David.
Hello.
So I thought it would be good to make a quick review on the film since we just got off the theater. And David here, he's not such a Marvel comic book guy as much as me, so maybe that will be an interesting discussion. First, let's hear what David has to say about Captain America 4.
Oh wow. It's good to be here in this brave new world with you. I did enjoy the movie a lot. It was about 2 hours long, but it was pretty fast paced and kept my attention throughout. I thought Anthony Mackie was a great Captain America, though, again, as Bruno mentioned, I don't know a lot of the backstory on, when he became Captain America. There was some callbacks. I kept kind of waiting to see some of the Avengers because I thought I saw them in the trailer, but I think it was for a different movie, so I kept waiting. I was like, Florence Pugh is going to be here at any point.
Yeah, different one.
So, but anyways, it was good, and I thought there was some interesting. They play with some subversive elements about the relationship of like government in our society, and how much we trust our government, but the government's here to save us, and I think that interrelation is interesting upon the backdrop of where we live at in the United States of America with the complexities and everything going on. So Marvel kind of wades its way in. It doesn't make any like bold pronouncements, but it plays with that as kind of a character, in my opinion. I'm doing air quotes, United States of America, and all that is voted for. But yeah, I would give it a 3.9 out of 5 Paddington popcorn buckets.
All right. So, in my opinion, that's the, let's say, entertainment-wise, is the weakest, in my opinion, of all the four Captain American films.
Uh-huh.
But I think that's the one we can discuss the most about like stuff political related, especially because there's certain groups that are represented in the film, which I think it's the most rich of the films regarding that, which I want to get into that.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think that the first Captain America is good. It's a good movie, but you don't get much. It's kind of like an old school, shallow, old-fashioned film that tried to homage the 50s, the 40s, that World War II era of comic books. The second film, which I think it's maybe the most acclaimed, it opens the door for that espionage thriller type of movie that this one tries to follow up. Since the third one is more like it's almost like an Avengers movie, because there's a lot of Avengers characters, and it's trying to adapt one of the most famous arcs in Marvel 21st century panels, which is the Civil War, right? But this one, first of all, the Captain American is black, so I think that's a strong statement.
Yep.
Second, his helper, Falcon, is Hispanic.
Yep.
Also, like a big thing to point out. Another thing, they have. I'll save this for the end. Okay, the president is played by Harrison Ford, which I do have some comments about it.
Please.
But what got to my attention, it's the color used, because you see that when the film opens, he's like behind a blue panel, and then he turns into the red Hulk, right? So, yes, because as you guys know, the Democrats here, they have the blue color, and the Republicans have the red color. So that was very interesting for me, because Harrison Ford is clearly the villain of the film, but at the same time, he's not like the main villain. The main villain is green, right? So and Hulk, which should be green, is red. So there's a lot of subversion with color here, right? That I think it's worth the discussion. But last point is that I saw it's a little controversial on the internet, but there's a character in the movie that was born in Israel, and she also wears the blue color, and she is a good person. She's portrayed as a character that's on the side of the heroes. So there's a lot to discuss about those kind of representations, right? So what are your thoughts on that, David?
Oh man, you brought up a lot of really interesting things. So let's track it back from the last stuff you talked to the first. So with the character that's referenced in the movie as being Israeli, she's also referenced as being like a widow. That she's referred to as like a widow. I don't know if that's a spoiler, but they said, oh, like she was a widow. Is that some like sort of human?
I think because she was trained. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure, but I got it as she was trained same as the character of Scarlett Johansson, like the Black Widow. She's like a super soldier type of woman.
Okay,
she has
nice.
that background of being like really above any average woman regards to strategy and fighting.
Okay, so she's at the Scarlett Johansson School of
Yeah,
Fighting.
something like that.
That's an interesting callback. I would also add that's a really good point on the red and blue color. Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign actually had the slogan "Stronger Together," I believe, and that was when Harrison Ford's character as president-elect, when he comes out, the banner is together. And that was also one of the only points in the movie where I think that they actively used the 3D, because we did see it in 3D. And it did a very like crowd POV during his presidential like acceptance speech, showing people in the crowd filming and stuff, to the point that was kind of immersive. But I think the 3D people definitely took the 95% of the movie after that scene. They took it off. Because it's, I don't know what it would have looked like, but just pointing that out. But yeah, there's a lot on the political stuff, on the character himself, Harrison Ford, and his internal turmoil and how that represents and kind of what he takes out in the world.
I believe that if we analyze what Marvel has been doing with their MCU, they're clearly more in the progressist side. But at the same time, they're not super bold. Like, let's say, they wouldn't put, they didn't yet, as far as I know, like, let's say, in their main movies, such as Homosexual Kiss or stuff like that, right? But at the same time, I think they're trying to play with what they have. And what I got with the color thing was, this guy is pretending to be good, so like he's using the blue color, but guess what? He's actually bad. He's red, right? So I don't know if that's the correct interpretation, but it has a nice color. Color discussion we can do a lot, because the colors of America are red and blue, right? And the villain is red, and the Republicans are red, and then when you see, like, the Captain America itself, he changes his suit from white to blue, right? And the girl, the Israeli character, also wears a jacket that has like a blue detail, which kind of like shows that Marvel are on the blue side. I got it,
there's
but it's not like super. They don't touch on those words, right? They wouldn't. But I think it's interesting that his sidekick is Hispanic, because first we got Steve Rogers, which is very much white, blue-eyed, blonde, super American, and then his sidekick is black, and now the main hero of the story is black, and his helper is Hispanic. And there's also a interesting scene in Mexico in the beginning of the film, which we all know it's such a main topic in America now, to talk about the relationship between United States and Mexico and how it's portrayed. So I feel like they did a good job, because first he saves some Mexican people in the beginning of the film, and his sidekick, as I mentioned, is Hispanic, and it's a great character, like a character that tries to be a little more the comic relief. And one thing I liked about this film is that they used way less jokes than the previous films, I think. And I hope Marvel's getting a little more serious. I don't see the Fantastic Four being like as Guardians of the Galaxy. I do feel like it's going to have more humor than this Captain America. But if you see all the Captain America films, they're on the most serious side. Like the second one has just a few jokes. It's very on spot. So I feel like it's the tone I dig.
And the jokes do, I think, hit harder when they're more spaced out. You're not expecting them. If every character is joking around, if the random military guy he meets for 10 minutes is joking around, you're like, okay, this is all this is all kind of a farce. But one thought on the Falcon character, the Latino character, is his most defining trait, or his like self-identifying characteristic, is the fact that he's from Miami. There's a lot of references to that. There isn't a lot of references to like Latino, like my abuelo wouldn't like this.
Yeah.
And then also on Anthony Mackie, there's not overt references to his blackness. Which I think is credit to the writers. He does have a trainer who we can get into that, who is based out of Baltimore, that he like helps out,
and it's super American at the same time. Like,
yeah, exactly. And that character does reference, I think, his blackness, and because Baltimore is known as a more African American populated city, and then also he had motifs of famous African American athletes in his fighting studio, like Muhammad Ali and so forth. So I thought that character, and also the father, kind of, I don't know if it's necessarily even like a father protege dynamic, but I think that's probably an element as well, unrelated.
What
to
do you think about them having to mention that the character was born in Israel, and what do you think that means for Marvel? Because we do know that a lot of executives on the film business are Jewish. So what did you think of that?
I do appreciate the question. I would say that where my brain goes immediately is the movie. I look at the end of the movie, so like I watch the full credits, and I pay special attention to stuff that I think is like odd, or like not odd, but I don't really care who the grips are. Like that's kind of standard movie. I look at stuff like companies that are mentioned that have weird names, and then the special thanks. And I pointed to you and I said, when the special thanks showed, my thought was, okay, this is all probably like former military people that they talk to. So I do think that the movie, and we talked a little bit about like the government and US of it all, it does play in that kind of like military industrial lane. Like even when a technology is brought up in the movie, they go, this would be great for science and defense.
Yes.
So I think that the Israeli, just to circle back, is just, they're one of the U.S.'s allies, and it showed other countries in kind of an ally context. Like, but Israel was a little bit more of like, you're on the inner, whereas like France, Japan, and India. I thought if I was from one of those countries and I saw the representation, I wouldn't love kind of like the Indian characters in the background,
in the background,
and then they show them on Zoom.
Yes, as more as we talk about this film, I realize it's maybe the most political of all Marvel films, because there's a lot of layers, a lot of representations. It's definitely a pro-black film, a pro-Hispanic film, but would never be anti-Israel, pro-Palestine film, because Marvel is not on that side. And they probably will never be, and because it will be too much. And the movie is, we gotta think about who's financing the movie, who's they're trying to get the audience into it. But I think those decisions, they are still bold. Even the Israel character is bold to mention that, and to put the Hispanic character, and even to put like Captain America and the president being white and red being the villain of the film. So I do think that this film, it has a lot. Represents a lot of the current American political issues.
And as you brought up with the scene where, in one of the earlier scenes, there's a mission that's carried out in Mexico, and I think someone maybe watching that, that's like aware of, like that. Again, I'm doing air quotes here, but with some seriousness, like aware of like imperialism, would be watching that scene going, it's interesting that America's over there for this very specific reason. But again, it's to service the plot of the movie, but it's like we're in Mexico for 10 minutes to kind of kill people and then just kind of move on with the plot.
Yeah.
Which some people, again, like maybe more on the left would go, that's the story of America.
Yeah. And also, I don't think they thought this whole scene through, because it's a scene where the people are basically in a church, and there's nuns, right, and
a
priests,
padre.
and it feels like they portrayed Mexico as this more archaic, religious, I don't know, superstitious, not high tech place. I don't know. I mean, it's not the most well thought scene.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
bad. I mean, I kind of like the aesthetics. Looks like a video game level,
Mm-hmm.
but it's on the side where it's a clearly foreign vision of what that would be. But at the same time, if they put, let's say, urban scenario,
Cartel.
but very poor,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
would be even worse.
Right.
So
I
I
agree.
don't think it's the most well thought scene, but I don't think it's the worst portrait.
I do have that's a really good point. I do have a question. So, and while on the international subject, which I find fascinating, Anthony Mackie's character speaks to a lot of, again, like foreign people from other countries in their native tongue during the movie.
Yes,
Is that
that-
something that's in other Captain Americas? Because it's kind of interesting. Diplomatic.
When he speaks Spanish,
he
oh no, he
speaks
speaks
Spanish?
several. He
He
speaks
speaks
several
Japanese.
Yes,
He
very
speaks
political. Very
Japanese.
political. It's to say that English language should not be the imperialist main language of communication. I think that's what they're trying to say.
Uh-huh.
But at the same time, it's kind of
Reinforcing.
a little bit goofy. Especially when he speaks Spanish, it's such like an epic way. Like, wow, this guy is like a hero because he knows how to say de nada and gracias, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a little funny.
Japan, he kind of cucks the president a
Yeah.
little bit because the president of the U.S. is introducing him to the Japanese prime minister, and he's like, "Oh, let me just speak Japanese real quick."
Yeah,
I'm like,
I mean, I think they had good
Yeah.
intentions. It's just a little goofy.
yeah, that's a good point. That's fair. That's fair. I think it's an interesting part of the character.
Yeah,
that they're just
yeah.
like flying over something.
I
and
think
then they're like,
the actor does a good job. It convinces me that this guy is a hero, and I will play hard, and I will not go the easy way to uncover the truth, whatever. The structure of the film kind of surprised me. I thought it would be because the structure is not that obvious in the three arcs kind of movie.
Uh-huh.
It does kind of have that if you go like to the layers of the structure of the narrative, but it's a film that's very fast paced. There isn't much chilling. There isn't much contemplative scenes, which
Yeah.
I think would benefit the movie, especially like the legacy of Steve Rogers, which you asked me who
Yeah.
that guy was.
Yeah,
He's
so
the original Captain
Chris
America, Chris
Evans?
Evans, right?
Okay.
He died on the End Game, the
so how does
Avengers.
he do the handoff to Anthony Mackie?
Oh, you have to see Endgame, man.
Okay, it's
the audience will get pissed at us now.
I did see it. But I
Okay,
forgot.
yeah.
But I'll rewatch
He
it.
basically gives the shield, and he goes back in time,
Okay.
and then he's old, and then he gives the shield when
Ah.
he's old, so he cannot be Captain America anymore. He found a reason not to be Captain America. I will say I'm getting into the Brubaker. I don't know how to pronounce his name. The most famous writer of the Winter Soldier storyline.
Okay.
That happened in Marvel like almost 15 to 18 years ago, that Captain America died, and then his replacement was white. So
Okay.
in the comics that happened, the Sam Wilson thing did happen like in more contemporary era to match what they're doing with the
Right,
film.
Right.
But originally, that guy with the metal arm that gives him advice, the Bucky character, should be Captain America. I don't know why they're not adapting good comic book storylines from Captain America, instead building these things, which again goes into the political interest of Marvel right now, because
Yeah,
because they are updating these stories and creating original stories that touch those subjects as immigration and multiculturalism and supremacy of Americans' government and defense and all this shit we've been talking about. But anyway, they're coming up with the original stories, and I have my gripes because I think there's a lot of good comic book stories that they could adapt or take more as inspiration. But I think overall it's a good film. Out of 5, I would give. It's tough. I think I would give a 3 out of 5.
Okay, that's fair.
A 3 out of
That's
5.
fair.
if it was out of 10, I would give a 7 or
I'm about that. I get that.
7.5.
I kind of adjusted it for like the Marvel-ness of it. That's why I was closer to 4. I do have another question of, there was a bunch, and sorry if you, please, go watch the movie as well. There was a lot of references to Ant-Man. And again, I'm more familiar with like Iron Man, Spider-Man,
Oh yeah,
etc.
I have no idea.
I thought that was kind of strange. Like, because Falcon, was kind of obsessed with Ant-Man, and then
Yeah.
that came up probably an equal amount of times as Miami came up, which was like...
There's a lot that we don't know
Yeah.
because I haven't watched. There's a show called Captain America and Winter Soldier that's on Disney Plus, 10 episodes. There's a lot of information I don't know.
Yep.
I'm more like a comic book guy, even more than the Marvel films. But there's also the Ant-Man film that came out like recently. Marvel, since the Avengers Endgame in 2019, they've been like not super on their game because it's a more chill phase where they're building again. And this year is the year that Marvel tries to catch up again because they're releasing this film and then the Florence Pugh film, which is the next Thunderbolts, and then Fantastic Four being the peak of the year.
Wow.
And then next year, I
Crazy.
think there's the Avengers again. But the last few years have been like a little faded, and there's been an Ant-Man, which is, even for Marvel B character standards, it's a little underground film.
Yeah.
So I am not super on the references right
Okay.
now, but I do appreciate the film, especially because of that sort of talk we just had about what that means and how they're standing. Because we live in a very conservative America, we all know, but I am still always surprised how not conservative Marvel is. Especially considering how big they are,
Yeah.
They're the top one ticket seller on the film business. So
I'm sure this was a hit. You can put up the number from the box office on the screen now, but I'm sure we'll look and see, $500 million or something.
yeah, and I would attribute that to the lack of main Marvel films that have been coming out in the past few years since Endgame. I think the biggest one that we had was the Spider-Man No Way Home, which was in end of 2021, but it's also a very much Spider-Man focused story, not super Marvel MCU focused. Before we close our conversation, because I don't think there's much to talk, I want to highlight that I was surprised to see more older people in the theater, because in Brazil we do see much more younger audiences seeing those sort of superhero films. So I thought that was interesting, and I wonder what those people are thinking,
I have thoughts on that. So my thoughts on the Marvel, being a smash hit is just, there is no demographic for these movies. It is just a cross section of society, like people that, work 3 jobs, people that, are taking their spoiled kid for their, 2 movies a year. I think this is something that you see the marketing for, you go, loved Endgame, let's let it rip. And I think the box office numbers, again, put them up on the screen. It's going to be a smash every single showing.
But I wonder what those older people
What they take away.
will think of
Yeah.
those representations, right? Because I can't imagine some people that are more conservatives maybe seeing the Black Captain America or the Hispanic sidekick and all those things that we talked about. What do they think on that? So I'm very curious. It's not the sort of crowd that we'll be seeing reviews from them. But I'm sure, we can find out. And if you guys that are watching this video know anything about that, just please comment and let us know if you know what the audience, the older audience, the conservatives, the Republicans are thinking on that film.
There's enough for them to enjoy in this movie. But yeah, I mean, maybe there's aspects of going, oh, I don't see myself as the hero in the movie. One last thing, one of the villains in the movie who has a scientific background or something, he refers to himself as a hero. And I want to go back and look at how that script was laid out, because I thought that was just kind of odd like an
Yeah.
odd character development.
Yeah, I think
aspect.
I agree. I think the villain's kind of weak in
Yeah.
the sense that he's not very convincing. He doesn't have any motivation that you can empathize. Like he's just a
probability.
villain, kind of generic. The
Yeah.
probability guy. Maybe they could have even like put more thought into that. Like I think it's interesting a guy that knows the outcomes, as he said.
Right.
And I enjoy the action scenes a lot. I
Yep.
think they're great. They're very well done. The special effects are very good. I think we're reaching
Great.
a point where it's more about being well shot and well, like realistically displayed more than just a spectacle, right?
Uh-huh.
And the final fight with the Hulk, it's quite minimalistic if you think about it.
Yep.
And I like the setting. Like it's kind of like a Japanese quiet.
King-
The trees there.
Cherry blossoms.
Yeah, it's nice. They nailed it, a lot of choices of the film, and the 3D you kind of like forgets about it after the first 10 minutes.
It was
The first
not-
minutes are very like strong. You feel like you're in a
was
video
cool.
game, a VR.
Yep.
But then it either gets soft or I got used to it. I don't know.
Yeah, it wasn't poignant throughout the movie. The last question / thought I have, which is kind of a dumb question. Maybe we don't know the answer, but I thought they did the Washington D.C. I'm from that area. I thought that they did some of the monuments. They did well capturing cherry blossoms in spring. But my dumb question is, did they film at the White House or did they recreate the White House? Because
I
they
don't
did
think even they shot in Japan.
Well, they did not shoot in Japan. They shot at they used the same cherry blossoms from the DC. But I was impressed. I mean, I watched a lot of C-SPAN, folks, and that is that's basically like news for old people that don't want any bias. C-SPAN, they just show the government, at work, which is actually really boring, but can be interesting at times. But so I've seen a lot of clips from political stuff in DC, and I thought that the White House looked good. I haven't seen Olympus Has
good.
Fallen.
The
or
whole
anything
film
like
looks
that,
really
but
good.
Yeah, overall,
It
that's
looks
my
good.
takeaway. If you can get that right, you're getting other stuff right as well.
Yes, I believe plot-wise is the one where I wouldn't find much enjoyment in rewatching,
Okay.
but I would definitely recommend to watch because it's a very visually it's a very good film.
Yep. Go see it. And also support independent filmmakers like the maker of this channel and watch their movies and go out and go look up a movie and just go see it, especially if it's made by your friends, because those can be really fucking cool.
All right,
Awesome. Very good.
good. So that's it,
We had
guys.
fun.
I thank you so much for staying with us and hearing us. And share your thoughts on this video on the comment section. Stay safe. Anti-Nerd here. Goodbye.
Thank you.